around frantically, trying to get everything done. No one was prepared. But the difference between them and me was that they had all their members on site, while I was the only one out of my 4-person team that showed up. Despite my main responsibilities as being a builder and fixing the robot, I also had to learn coding overnight, which is an entirely new field because my coder couldn't meet up to standards, and write 30 pages of notes onto a 160-page notebook because my notebooker didn't have time. As you can tell from this message that I sent to my coder at 3 in the morning, I wasn't very happy. My coach was genuinely concerned for me. I was running around the place for 4 hours straight, completely silent, except for, of course, the cussing in my computer screen. The pressure got so immense that I had to step outside just to calm myself down, tears rolling down my face. And that was the only chance I got to ask myself that night if it was worth it to push me and other people to the brink of collapse just to get ever so infinitesimally closer to success. So what did I get out of X other than a lesson? Sorry, a trophy, a lesson. True success isn't about how much you can take, but rather how long you can last. Huh? Okay. We've all been sold this lie that success requires suffering, that it is a rite of passage. Maybe you've compared yourself to someone who is very successful and thought, I wonder what their secret is. In my old school, I used to always compare myself to someone in my class who always seemed to be 2 steps ahead of everyone at all times. When I saw them, I thought, I wish I was as motivated as them. Or, man, if only I was more smarter. But never, I wonder how I could do the same things if I really tried. Because staying in the game for so long isn't just as simple as motivation, talent, or some magical formula. Anyone can do anything if they have a system. When high achievers work towards their goals, they make it 3 things: realistic, manageable, and consistent. Okay. So, what is a realistic goal? Say that you're in science class, and the teacher is giving a general overview of what the next 4 weeks are going to look like. They're saying, hey guys, quiz is going to be at the end of the week, and there's going to be a test at the end of the month. As a stellar student, of course, you're likely aiming for an A on this test. Even if this unit is incredibly hard, 4 weeks is likely plenty of time for you to gain mastery of whatever subjects or topics that the unit is going to include. You're thinking, hey, I got this. This is a realistic goal. Now, what if I told you that the science teacher said this? Okay. Hey guys, quiz tomorrow, test at the end of the month. What are the first few words in your mind? Because I know for sure what the will be in mine. 1 week for an entire unit of science, that is not a realistic goal. So then I ask you, if you're not fine with the teacher giving you these kinds of deadlines, why are you, when you're cramming for a test within a week, okay with doing the same to yourself? Isn't this the same as this? A study from Warwick Business School found that 86.1% of students submitted their assignments within 24 hours of the deadline. And these last-minute submissions were associated with a lower average grade compared to those submitted earlier. What can we take from this? We need to set our goals within the limit of our time, resources, and energy. But what if we have multiple things to do? A study from Stanford University found that those who frequently engaged in medium multitasking found it difficult to engage with tasks involving working memory and sustained attention. These individuals couldn't switch between tasks effectively, leading to decreased performance. Even the American Psychological Association finds that multitasking can lead to more errors and result in more time compared to just focusing one task at a time. So instead of thinking about, for example, succeeding in A, learning B, and doing C all at the same time, let's take a step back and see if we can handle it. If yes, great, let's go for it. If not, let's take a step back and slow down. It'll probably be more efficient at the end. So now we have a goal, but it'll probably sound something like this. Win something, learn something, beat something. How can we make this manageable? So I'm going to show you guys a sentence for 7 seconds. I want you to count how many times the letter F appears. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so how many F's were there? You. How many F's do you think there were? Yeah. 4? Okay, good guess. So I'm going to show you the same sentence, but this time in parts. Finished vowels, here's 2. Of scientific, here's 3. Of again, here's 1. So 2 plus 3 plus 1, 6. There are 6 F's in the sentence. Now raise your hand if you initially thought that there are less F's. Okay, so I see a lot of hands up. So people probably miss the F's in words such as of because they appear less significant compared to words such as scientific and finished. This is how our brains naturally work. When we see a word that is smaller and appears less significant, we tend to brush it aside. However, this happens to big goals as well. When we spread things out and slow things down, we're able to see clearly and perform better. I'd like you guys to pay attention to this graph. This graph shows that there's a sweet spot in making your tasks the right difficulty. If you approach a hard task head on, you'll likely become anxious and frustrated, much like the procrastinating student. However, if you spread things out too much, you become uninterested and bored. How do we find the sweet spot? Simple. Plan things out. In April, I don't know why, but I had the sudden urge to take a notoriously hard academic course. AP, Physics C, Electricity, and Magnetism. For those who don't know, AP courses essentially have the same difficulty as a university level course. In addition to taking full IB, having multiple other APs, and robotics whirls around the corner, this seemed nearly impossible, and I started to look like this kid right here. The exam was on May 15th, and I had 0 prior knowledge. So how did I manage? Simple. I planned things out. I knew I had to self-study from a textbook, so I spread 10 chapters across 20 days, and I knew to also leave a little bit of time for myself to do some practice exams before the actual test. Was it hard? Very much so. But was it doable? Yes. Because I knew physics was my strong subject, I could afford to push myself a little bit further. I also set small but clear goals for myself, and when I finished them each day, I would highlight them in green. Setting these goals for yourself every day ensure that you're moving towards your final destination, whether or not you decide to highlight them in green. So now we have a goal, and we're moving towards it. Good for you. But it probably, how can we stay consistent? Sometimes it's just really hard to keep on going. Do we have to stay consistent as in grinding each day? Okay, let's look at 2 legendary bodybuilders. Mike Mentzer and Arnold Schwarzenegger on the right. These 2 athletes look pretty huge, no doubt. But how did they get there? The idea of training more equating to more growth in the gym is widely accepted in the fitness community. The more you train, the more you gain. Say you wanted a body like Arnold's right here. You'd have to train like him in addition to taking steroids, but that means training 6 times a week, twice a day. That is 12 workouts per week. That is an insane amount. However, how was Mike Mentzer able to achieve nearly the same results with only 3 workouts per week? Mike Mentzer was one of the most influential bodybuilders for his time, and one of the more amazing things he developed was his philosophy of high-intensity training, or HIIT for short. Yes, he would only train 3 times a week, and yes, he would only do 1 working set per exercise, but he pushed that set with his maximum physical effort up to absolute burnout. Then, he would take 4 or 5 days for himself to rest so his body can recover and grow. These 2 men showed consistency in 2 different ways. Arnold showed his with frequency, while Mike showed his through intensity and recovery. So what can we take from this? Simple. There is no universal definition of consistency, which everyone should be obligated to adopt. We need to define our own rhythm. Whether you work like an Arnold or a Mike, as long as you're moving with rhythm, you can achieve anything you set your mind to. Now, I'll let you guys to give a bit of homework. Yeah, sorry, homework, boo-hoo. But I promise it's good for you. When you go home today, I want you to think of one thing, just one thing that you want to achieve in the near future. Then, I want you to ask yourself, how can I chase this one thing in a way that will still make me want to pursue it tomorrow? Because real success isn't just measured in shiny objects or big numbers, but in joy, sustainability, and balance as well. Knowing that you didn't just grind, you grew. Knowing that you didn't just push, but you also paced yourself. You didn't just work towards a result, but you built a better version of yourself. That is the true success worth fighting for. And that is the real balance we should all strive to achieve.